rotting driftwood on the foreign shores, spilling out into the ocean floor, and the memories all you've left without a trace. Paralyzed with the thoughts receding, current sweeps you with the silent bleeding through the heart into the darkest place. Well, turn around, there's nothing to see here. Run away, no reason to be here. It's the ghost who never goes away. Turn around and leave this behind now. You see the ground as it bleeds in the sky now. You fight the sea, you're always gonna drown. All the secrets that you're holding, all the memories you hide, all the frail thoughts that echo in the corners of your mind, they won't even last a moment. They will soon be swept away when the ocean takes you in its arms and carries you away. You carry all your burdens on the cross around your neck. You take whatever's left that you could salvage from the wreck, and hard past will follow you like a lost dog on the beach, nipping at your trail till you've drifted out of reach. Yeah, turn around, there's nothing to see here. Run away, no reason to be here. It's the ghost who never goes away. Turn around and leave this behind now. See the ground as it bleeds to the sky now. You fight the sea, you're always gonna drown. In a broken line horizon, in the castles made of sand, you tried to hold it in your hands, you tried to understand it. The ocean asks the questions, and it holds the answers too. It dissolves away the lies about the things you thought you knew.
Hello, my friends. 'Tis I, Dame Armiger Kaliranya. My heart and my sword are yours. And 'tis I, Adulath Karakai II, bastard son of a real bastard. Your hearts are mine. Yeah, we're back to YouTube. This is an idea for a stream series that has been long percolating, and which I have but recently actually started committing to and trying to make happen. So, at some point, okay, well, I guess I could give the... I should have practiced my wind-up here. So, my main social media, or social network, aside from Discord, which you could or couldn't call a social network. Anyway, my main, social microblogging platform is that sprawl known as the Fediverse, which uses the Mastodon microblogging software, in the case of the server that I'm on at least. And I have my own little server called VTuber House. It has 20 some odd users, of which half a dozen of them actually post, but that server connects out to the wider universe of federated social media. If any of y'all in the chat are interested in joining that, you can just go to vtuber.house and submit a registration request, and I will get you set up. The registrations are screened because we do sometimes get LLM bots trying to pretend to be people and stuff like that. But anyway, all that aside, I have my little hashtag for going live on there, which I think I even forgot to apply to today's post. But it's Kalira, but it's Kalivra, Kalivera, right? So I put this little hashtag on my go live posts. Well, as I was typing it one time, the autocomplete kicked in, showing me other hashtags across the network that had propagated to our server at some point or another. And one that came up was Kalista Chronicles. Well, that sounds fascinating. As everybody who's actually here in the chat knows, Kalista is the use name that I go for outside of the Avatar VTubing context. So I was like, oh, okay, what's that? I go search it up. Turns out it is a, I guess, young adult kind of urban fantasy series by an author, Jen A. Morales. It's got several books and stars this character named Kalista, who's like half angel or something. A very just absolutely classic young adult fantasy style heroine. I bought the first book. As you see here, this is in my Amazon Kindle library. I started to read it. I didn't get very far. Let us charitably say it is not the style of writing that normally hooks me very well. But, as with all sorts of things, video games, pieces of fiction, so on and so forth, I am more likely to follow through on a thing if I am doing it in a community context with friends. And my usual way of doing that is to stream the activity in question. Oh, you can get all the books for $6. Okay, so if we get through the book 1 of the Kalista Chronicles and we say, all right, we got to continue the story, then Ko-fi is the way to get it on the cheap. Okay, thank you, Rain. I remembered to call you Rain, despite YouTube leading with John. Not that I really expect our other John to show up today. I should be around tomorrow, but never know. So here we are. This is the Kalista Chronicles. Also, Adelath is here. You see, you don't have your regular co-host, so might as well fill in, right? If nothing else, I can simply watch over your shoulder and kind of smirk at things, as I do. Right, and there will probably be characters that would be appropriate to your voice. I mean, even looking at this first page, there's a character named Cannon. Surely you have to be the one to voice a man named Cannon. Sure? I guess? Right. So that's it. Yeah. How has your all's week been? I have been doing pretty okay. My notable life thing from this past week is that I just started getting gender-affirming face lasers. I went in Wednesday morning to a skincare salon place and got my face blasted several times to start the process of thinning out unwanted facial hairs. It was an experience. Everybody kind of, yes, gender affirming, that turn of phrase popped into mind at some point, and I just could not let go of it. That's just how I refer to it now. Yeah, like everybody warned me. Okay, it's painful. You know, you gotta kind of go in braced for it. But like, it was ouchy, but it wasn't that bad. There were like 2 or 3 of the zaps that were pretty intense, but mostly I would say like a tooth extraction at the dentist is much worse. Uh, it's just these little slaps with little pinprick sensations. Yeah, interesting little experience. Yeah, if you've got a bit of money and any hairs that you don't like, yeah, I can recommend the procedure. Uh, yeah, I'm sure Addie here is very sad that the hairs will be going away. Look, I don't care that much. I do think you should get me a binder at some point, though, just to let me go out of town for a little while. I could see it happening. That could be a thing we do. You would I would still be keeping a careful eye on you that you don't get into any trouble if I let you loose like that. Not to be unkind, but you're not that attractive in your currently body. Oh, come on now. You and I, we could pick up chicks at the bar or something. You've never done that in your life. I could learn. Hair. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you can get laser treatment for other things going on in the skin. You can zap blemishes or freckles or whatever. I think there's various things you can do with it, but yeah, it's hair removal indeed. Yeah, it's like all the places where I would be growing in stubble. You can blast the hair follicles and kill them more or less permanent. Like sometimes over a long time, hair will start coming back, but it's a mostly permanent process. Reshaping the skull? What? Gender-affirming phrenology. Well, that's more the study of the skull than... This would be like gender-affirming trepanation or something. What on earth, Redcorn? Well, you just need to invent a headmate to blame that on. Yeah. Like that wasn't a true to form Redcorn thought. Yeah. You could say, okay, this thought was embarrassing. You could blame that on someone. Yeah, cursed thought. How would you reshape a skull with a laser? I guess you soften it with repeated pulses of hot radiation, and then you kind of mush it into place. No, species-affirming care for Therians. Yeah. Get a proper muzzle going. Rest in peace, Catman. Yeah. No, maybe if I were just rolling in cash, I could get facial feminization surgery, amusingly abbreviated FFS. But no, my skull is going to remain the way it is until I die. Cat face is a lot easier than most dogs, pits and pugs being the exceptions. Yeah, a primate face is rather closer to a braciophalic dog than it would be to a wolf. Yeah. I don't know. Someday, in our cyberpunk future, if we actually start getting the cool parts of it as opposed to the dystopia that we currently have. Become cat girl. Anyway, we've been chattering. Let's see how far we can get into the Kalista Chronicles, A Born Angel, The Born Angel Saga, Book 1. Here's the prologue. And the last order of business. Lashtanoka is complete. Ashton announced to the 6 members that were still on the Council of Fire and speaking to him. We all looked up at him in shared confusion, except for Beelzebub, who is the grand architect of the hidden city. You'd rather just become a cat, just transform completely, just put my brain into a cat body, never mind shaping my humanoid form. The omnibus has a spoiler in the title. Okay. Well, yeah, I probably won't be hitting the omnibus until after we are through all 362 pages of Born Angel. So I will try to remember that, should we get that far when the time comes. We'd been talking about it and preparing for nearly 2,000 years, waiting for the prophesied threat to all preternaturals and their descendants. That threat had reared its ugly head in the form of the Greeks, but that wasn't the biggest news. Beelzebub and I have drawn up a ward that will be placed on the gates of the city. When the last preter is inside and the gates shut, it will hide the city and slow down time for all inside. 200 years will pass here on Earth, while 1 passes in the city, and that will put us back on the proper timeline, Ashton explained. The crackling fire from the hearth was the only sound in the room, as we stared at him like he was insane. I immediately saw the drawbacks to this new development, and knew that his heart wasn't in the right place. Cannon paced the floor at the opposite end of the table, as he'd done in the last several meetings. His pacing had the rest of us on edge, as he was the level-headed voice of reason in this equation. We'd all tried to dissuade Ashton from this foolhardy course of action, but we never thought he'd figure out a way to do it. Cannon stopped pacing and turned to the table. The prophecies won't change if we don't do this, Cannon said. Alcyone sat forward and met his eyes. Maybe this is the reason they are set the way they are, she countered him. Being an heir to an angel of prophecy, she would know better than any of us, other than Atropos, who spoke the prophecy and was once again absent. We have a wild mix of different mythologies here, don't we? Like, Atropos was one of the... was it one of the fates? It was Clothos, Atropos, and Lachesis who measure out the skeins of, like the threads of mortal fates and decide when a thread should be cut short, basically when somebody's going to die. But then we've also got, gosh, I forget, is that sounds like it's Greek, right? It'd have to be Greek. And then we got Beelzebub, who is like that would have been in Torah? So that would be Judaic mythic tradition? Yeah, spin, measure, and cut. Yes. The Greek fates. Okay. My mother has said that she agrees with Ashton. This is the course we should take, Beelzebub, the youngest of our members, said. I dipped my head to him, and all 6 pairs of eyes turned to me. I think that means that all of the assembled members of this council turned to face the speaker, but given that we're coming off of Beelzebub, who is, like, that's often depicted as, like, the Lord of Flies, right? It's like, wait, is he talking about 6 like pairs of insect eyes? Okay, hilariously, Beelzebub is Judaic and Babylonian, or possibly Assyrian. Yeah, one of those figures that kind of gets picked up from one culture and brought into the mythos of another. It's okay, so it's another version of the name of Baal. Right, okay. Denari for your thoughts, Barracks, Ashton said. As she assured me last time she visited, he could no longer read me. It was both a blessing and a curse. Whatever she had done, it worked, and I was grateful for it now. Ah, literally a Jewish created slur. Okay, so Baal is the name of the god, and then Beelzebub is... Okay, Baal-Zebul, Lord of Lords, Baal-Zebub, Lord of Flies. Excellent. Thank you, Rain. Can always count on you to bring in the obscure knowledge or quickly look it up for us for the chat. Literally calling him a pile of dung. Ah, okay. And then from there, it just sort of got mutated into, oh yes, this is the, Prince of Hell who governs over swarms of insects, right? That's the way it's portrayed in a lot of, like, English language fantasy. Yeah. So who knows what flavor of Baal we're going with here. Lord of Flies became a cool thing, yeah. They forgot where... Yeah, and that happens quite frequently, really, with these bits of culture. I'm sure you see that with, like... Well, okay. This is kind of a problematic example, but, like, the term based, B-A-S-E-D, which is kind of a 4chan or, like, Chanboard style bit of slang, meaning, like, cool or insightful or on point. Like a correct opinion basically is based. Well, that was appropriated from African American vernacular English, where based means like stoned. It means like high out of your mind. Because there was a rapper, I think, who referred to himself as the based god, like, which was self-deprecating. It was saying, like, yeah, I'm this god, but I'm, like, always high off out of my mind. But the Chan board was, like, a fan of this guy, and so they started using based as just generally a complimentary term in reference to this rapper that they liked. And so the meaning got flipped and distorted. I guess that's not like a character from mythos, but it's the way that language mutates and its origins get lost. Okay, and I've been missing the history that Rain is unfurling here. Baal is, depending on what sources you use, God's literal son. Yes, that God, the Abrahamic one. Whoa! He had a wife and 50 sons, and Baal is first among equals-ish? Oh dear. Because that was the god that the golden calf in the Torah was about. Like, Moses went up the mountain to converse with God and transcribe the commandments. And he was up there so long that when he came back, the people that were following him had sort of given up, and said, okay, well, this god has abandoned us. We're going to worship this other one. And they'd fashioned this effigy, this idol, right? It's been a long time since I've been in the Bible scene. I'm probably getting some things mixed up. Okay. There are good reasons for and against it. It would keep the city from becoming overpopulated. It preserves the timeline, I began. Findabar. Now we got a Findabar.
And it seems selfish to keep the children stuck so young for so long. It will not end well.
Findabar interrupted. I looked at him across the table and dipped my head. Again. That is the thing that I do. It is a signature gesture. A dip of the head. I don't simply nod. I dip my head. It won't end well for some. But why not put it to a vote? Without Atropos present, we have 7 members to decide, I said. They looked at each other for a few moments, and Findabar nodded, seconding my proposal.
I vote against,
he said, and Ashton stood. All against? He said, waiting. Alcyone, Findabar, and Cannon sounded off. I couldn't. Findabar made a good point, but because it was a set moment in time, I would vote for it. It would happen, so I wouldn't buck fate. All 4? The others responded, and I nodded. Findabar glared across the table as he stood to object. That's the vote, then. 4-3. We will ward the city gate, and it will be sealed the moment everyone is inside. You are all to be there. This meeting is adjourned, Ashton said, not letting his brother get in a word edgewise. Findabar's face contorted, but Alcyone set her hand on his arm, and he relaxed. Findabar straightened the front of his tunic and bowed to the head of the council.
For your sake, Lucifer,
Findabar said, calling Ashton by his first earthbound name.
I hope this doesn't end in hellfire for you.
With that, the other members left, and I felt the familiar tug on the back of my mind that said she was back. Alright, so a very enigmatic opening. We have a council of... You know what? Maybe it's intentionally like figures from different mythos. Maybe it's like a convocation of gods of different pantheons making this decision about this city and what its place would be in the stream of time and fate. Ashton, aka Lucifer, we've got Baal, who has taken up the epithet. We've got Atropos from the Greeks. Yeah, maybe. Bi is not spelled but. You're simplifying it but a lot. I think you might be giving this writing more credit than it deserves. Is it a carefully plotted out convocation of deities from different pantheons, or is it just a number of names the author thought were cool? Are you Adelath, or are you Dimitri? I may be channeling them a little bit, because they don't have their own avatar. Alright, so you're just gonna be generally the, peanut gallery over here, kind of poking fun at things. If that's useful. You're usually the, straight man, after all. Yeah, something like that. Straight man who's neither straight nor a man. The classic every myth is true take. Let's see how she spins it. Oh, yeah. It's valid. But yeah, this is, like, we've got these references to this mysterious she, whoever she is. But okay, that was the prologue. As I recall, we don't stick with that perspective. It's more of a mysterious framing story that's going to maybe eventually come into context for the main book, but yeah, alright. Because our prologue perspective character was someone named Beryx, BerYx. And our perspective character in chapter 1 here is the title character Kalista. So whether those two are the same or related in some way, I don't know. I didn't make it that far in my prior attempt at reading, but yeah, we'll see if we can get that far together. All right.
Let's get out of here. She's as good as dead.
One of my attackers urged the others as he pulled at the hulking arm of his bull demon friend. My entire body ached, and blood oozed from my open wounds. I watched them through half-closed eyelids as my entire body screamed in pain. One of them grabbed my wrists, while another grabbed my ankles, and they flung me across the alley. I landed half in a pile of garbage bags and half on the red bricks. I moaned as their footsteps echoed into the distance. I lay there still as the dead until the last echo died away, and I tried to crawl from the refuse. My bruised and broken limbs throbbed, my crushed vocal cords pulsated against my bruised throat, and my eyes burned with tears. I moaned as my muscles screamed in protest, but I refused to acknowledge any of it. I had to get free, had to survive. I moved an inch before my eyes drifted closed without warning, and I lay still against the cool bricks, fighting for every painful breath that passed my broken ribs. Damn, she's pretty badly wrecked, huh? I'm not sure how long I lay there before a single set of footsteps echoed down the alley. I forced my eyes open, and the world tilted to the left. I tried to push myself up and fell forward. The rough brick dug into the cuts of the skin they'd exposed as they sliced through my heavy leather corset and pants. The pain was enough for my vision to tunnel, and I cursed the demon spawn under my breath. Lordy, what kind of assault was this? What sort of content warnings do I need for this book? If I lived through this, I needed to learn to defend myself against bull demons. The world tilted to the right, as a figure in a scarlet cloak stopped in the opening of the alley, and I breathed easier. Scarlet cloaks were only worn by the members of the Council of Spirit, the head of the preternatural judicial system. The council members patrolled the streets regularly with the city guardians who wore cloaks in shades of gray. Thank the Maker, help had arrived. But why was there only one of them? They always traveled in pairs while on patrol. Pain drove the thought away, and a new one emerged. No one was supposed to travel this sector alone. I lifted my head and tried to speak, but my vocal cords wouldn't vibrate. The being turned to leave, and my hope flickered. I laid my head on the brick, and blood trickled from my scalp. The thought of possibly dying like this in an unknown alley on the wrong side of Lashtonok flitted through my mind. It sent a rush of pure adrenaline into my system. Okay. So we have a connection. The prologue talked about sealing away the city of Lashtonok for 200 years to get it better synchronized with the flow of time around it, the sort of the way it's supposed to fit into the flow of fate, and to protect its inhabitants from something. So that's the place that our character is in. Doesn't surprise me that that's the prologue kind of something about the origin of this setting that we're going to show up in. I took a deep breath, ignored my screaming muscles, and lifted my head again. My vision swam with black spots, but I managed to call out. I tried to say, "Help me," but the only sound to escape my lips was a low moan. They stopped again as the world leveled out, and my vision cleared enough for me to see that the figure was male. I'm guessing for Bull Demon, the author envisioned something like a minotaur. But why not do just some guy with demon wings, but just some bull with demon wings? I mean, we don't know. We don't know yet. We've not had a bull demon described in detail, simply that it has a hulking arm. Right? I suppose that does rule out a quadruped, because you wouldn't normally call a quadrupedal limb an arm. But yeah, I mean, it could be a sort of a centaur shape, maybe. We don't know the full body plan of a bull demon. Well, right, no, I meant, you're right, but like a pure quadruped, like centaur is a particularly it's a specific variant of the quadruped form that's rather unusual, shall we say. Notable. Right. As my healing fire burned through the pain, I was able to make out some of his features. He was tan with a muscular build from hours of manual labor, and had dark brown hair, neatly cut just above his ears. I couldn't make out the rest of his features from so far away, but I felt his metaphysical presence as some of my powers returned. He was my stepfather, Justin Tragedy. Now there's a name.
Mr. Beat not naming himself just in time.
Yes. I have read dinosaur comics. I don't know. Just some bull with demon wings and some arms, let's say between 1 and 5 randomly attached to it. Alright, let's go. Yep. You've defined the body plan. Animated fanfiction has names, yeah. Justin Tragedy. Okay, you know, actually, what that reminds me of is Toho. Like patchouli knowledge, right? Justin Tragedy would fit in just fine in Gensokyo. That's a Gensokyo kind of name. Patchouli knowledge, Justin Tragedy, yeah. Homo Rainpuff. Wait, no, that's a VTuber. He looked around the alley, but didn't see me until I laid my head down. He ran to me. His footsteps sounded like thunder to my ruptured eardrums and aching head. He knelt by my head and brushed some of the matted ebony brown curls from my face.
Maker's sake, what happened to you?
I focused on his dark, deep-set amber brown eyes and couldn't muster up a sarcastic remark. That was highly unlike me, but I'd never been in this much pain before. He pulled me into his arms and I moaned as the pain tripled. Is this a romantic interest? Like, that being okay because it's stepdad, not biological dad? He's certainly described in very romantic interesty terms, isn't he? But maybe that's just how all dudely characters will get described in this book. We'll see. Guessing the Tragedy family doesn't fully bring the name Justice. It's still being around and all. Yeah. It's not like Usher or Eisner. The thought of him being alone passed through my mind again, but I was too grateful to dwell on it. I opened my mouth to voice my gratitude, but all that came out were more moans. He glanced down at me as he walked toward the court sector that was in the middle of the city, and concern creased his brow. Oh, this series started on DeviantArt? Awesome. Question mark? That's kind of cool. I like that.
Shh. Save your words for when you can speak properly,
he instructed, and I laid my head against his chest. Right now, I didn't care where he took me or what happened. I was safe, and I could heal in peace. When I opened my eyes again, he was walking toward the courthouse. I cleared my throat and lifted my head from his chest as panic set in. Courthouse was the last place I ever wanted to go. Oh, okay, so the cover images, those are DeviantArt pieces the author has created. Okay. Yeah, they look sort of like modified 3D art, maybe? I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe the style of them. They give a vague sort of 3D rendered vibe to me, but I'm not an art critic. Props to the author for actually publishing something. Yeah. I mean, I do commend that. I've not just one book, but a series, and I think she's written some other things outside of the Kalista series as well. And as far as I know, it's not AI slop. I think this came out before that became a thing. It doesn't really read like slop. Like, it's not quite that generic. It's a little bit more. It has a unique voice to it that doesn't ping to me as LLM-esque. Where are you taking me? I asked, voice like sandpaper on a rough board. He looked down at me, and his eyes were darker than before. Am I seeing things? What happened while my eyes were closed?
I'm taking you to my office. Last I knew, Larak was still at the courthouse, finishing his paperwork for the day. He'll look you over, and we can sort this out.
He replied, voice cold, implying my guilt. What had I done to deserve this? I struggled, but he held me tighter.
Calm down, Kalista.
He held me a little tighter while trying not to hurt me. I continued to squirm, trying to get free. He stopped and pinned me against his body. Whoop. Wrong button. Oh no.
Alright, pardon while we descuff here. Kali pressed the wrong button and crashed VTube Studio.
Please wait, loading. Okay. I do need to fixify the thingamadooby. Okay, we're back. I tried to switch to Addy and bump the button next to it, which apparently, for whatever reason, which is supposed to be the button to hide my tail, but VTube Studio didn't like that. I don't know what it is about the tail animations have made VTube Studio have been very unstable lately. I think since I jumped to Linux, they just have not been. Don't know. Okay, so.
Do you want me to drop you?
He asked, and I stopped. I glared at him through swollen eyes and wished I hadn't followed my sister and her friends when they left the Academy of Fire and Spirit this afternoon. He walked up the steps and inside the courthouse without another word. Goosebumps danced across my skin as the strange sensation of dread I always felt in the courthouse set in. The tale to break technology. Yeah. My tail, my enchanted tale of scuffing. I have nothing to apologize for. You didn't see anyone else almost dead in the alley. Why am I in trouble? I didn't do anything wrong, I rasped. My sore throat made my voice gravelly. He sat me on the stiff couch in his office, and I leaned back, trying to soothe the pain in my ribs. I thought about running, but my left leg throbbed and would have given out, so I stayed sitting. I was healing, but it was a slower process than normal, and I hated that. Just when I needed my powers most, they fizzled out on me. I don't know, coming back from crushed windpipe and broken ribs and etc., like, over a matter of minutes or hours here, is still pretty impressive, girl. Oh, hello, Yuzu. Good to see you in the chat, my love. Lurking or otherwise. I hope your day's going well. I didn't need to be here. I needed to be at home where Makamai could heal me. I'd been here a handful of times, and each time I was in deep trouble for some reason or another. This time was no different. I was the victim, yet here I was again. Okay, there's a footnote about Makamai. Demo key, beloved mother. Oh, I see. Demo key is okay, that's a language. Okay, so the other one is called, so that the Lashtanok means the hidden city. Demo key, they are, okay, go back. Makamai means, it's like beloved mother. Okay, mom. Mommy! Yeah, that's like Vampire the Masquerade level healing. She's like dumped some blood points into getting all her bashing damage back. Bashing and lethal.
Now that you have your voice back, tell me how it is that you ended up in the Blood Demon sector.
He paused for an answer, but I kept my mouth shut.
The Council has restricted travel to that sector. Your mother and I told you kids to avoid it. Why were you there?
He stood in front of his desk with his hands in the pockets of his pressed slacks. I slouched into the couch. That rhymes. Limbs still impossibly heavy, and tried to understand the question. The Blood Demon sector. If the map I memorized our first year here was correct, I was 5 blocks from there when I lost sight of Anastasia and her friends. Why would she go there? I pushed that thought away and decided the truth was the best option. If I lied, someone would drag the truth out of me sooner or later. I was spying on Allie. Makamai wanted to know where she and her friends went after school. Anastasia wouldn't tell her. I croaked, trying not to sound pathetic or whiny. His eyebrows rose in question, and he stared me down. I held his gaze as he leaned on the front of his desk and crossed his arms over his chest. Currently in a Vampire the Masquerade campaign, been a vampire for less than a week, already down to 5 humanity. Yeah, I'm trying to remember I think down to 5 humanity, like, just doing typical, typical, like, adventurer things, like getting into fights, or, you know, beating someone to death or at the point of unconsciousness, as tends to happen in tabletop role-playing games, will pretty quickly sink you that far in humanity. Good on y'all for keeping track of it. I was just talking with Rain, yesterday? Day before yesterday, about how difficult it is to keep track of humanity violations. If you tried to run an action movie campaign, every single PC would bottom out, yeah. That high of a body count tends to make you inhuman. If I weren't so used to it, it would have been intimidating. After 10 years, I'd grown numb to his intimidation. 10 years, and still they treated me like a child. I tried not to roll my eyes, but I don't think it worked. Well, first time. No, it sounds right to me. I don't know. What are you worried that you weren't doing things correctly about? When we entered the Hidden City, I was 3 years old, and only a year passed here for every 200 that passed on Earth. I would celebrate my 13th birthday this year. It is humiliating to have the body of a teenager and a mind that would rival Earth's best philosophers.
How modest.
Yet they still treated me like a child. Chronicles actually tried to square the circle between being a soldier in an active war and violence against other people melts your humanity. Really? Okay. But every day, no matter what happens, ends on a humanity check. Wait, did I miss a line here? Wait. Okay, I don't know what you mean by that, Roy. Dropped a 5 humanity on a day I spent finding a vampire that was stalking a friend. Just searching to friend... Yeah, so what did you do that would have caused your humanity to drop? Like... Oh yeah, good question too. Yeah, there's a lot of different editions. So yeah, which edition is this? Okay. Justin turned his head to the door, which disturbed my thoughts, and I tried to turn my head, but it wouldn't move. I sighed and moved my eyes, but still couldn't see what or who he was staring at. Humanity check at the end of the day for ending the day. What? That's... what? That sounds very strange to me. Humanity is supposed to, like, at least in the editions that I'm familiar with, you have to check humanity if you do something that is like monstrous in some way, something that moves you away from having compassion and altruism and fondness for other human beings. Yeah, okay, humanity checks you get for killing while feeding, yeah, absolutely. But you also just randomly make one at the end of the day? That's just weird. Is spying for your mother the best you can come up with? The familiar tenor voice of my uncle asked from the doorway. Larak Healer, Makamai's older brother, strode into the office holding an ice pack in one hand. His red hair was pulled back into a short ponytail, which showed off his warm amber eyes that matched his hair, and the freckles on his youthful face, which was half covered by a thickening growth of red beard. He slipped the ice pack into a fabric sleeve and held it out to me. I took it and gave a small painful nod of gratitude. I leaned back further and closed my eyes as I gingerly placed the cold pack over the bruised and swollen left side of my face. Technically, feeding it all is a check, but most vampires aren't high enough humanity to get dinged by that one, yeah. Yeah, the way it's supposed to work is that, like, you've got this hierarchy of sins, and if you do something bad, it's just bad in quotes, if you do something inhumane, that is of a tier of sin beneath where your humanity is currently at, you have to make the roll, and if you fail it, I think, your humanity diminishes. Now, I could, I suppose, see, like, the end of day thing. I could see, as a storyteller, being like, okay, humanity is a pain in the ass to keep track of from beat to beat. But if we kind of set a point where we take a step back and assess what's been going on, like, kind of recap and see, did you do anything that would have violated your humanity? And then we'll make the roll. I could see doing it that way, but if you're doing checks along the way and also just randomly making a check because you sat down in your coffin, that seems unfair. Weird, okay. They just want to make sure that humanity always goes down, huh? It's not a story. They stared, waiting for more. Ask Aiden. He refused to follow them. When they didn't move, I groaned and tried to sit up. My muscles screamed at me to stop, and this time I listened. If you don't believe me, let me tell Makrana Stella. She'll know if I'm lying. And Makrana means grandmother. I stated, slipping into a monotone rhythm. My eyes wanted to close again as Uncle Larrock's eyes wandered over me. Anyone else would have found it creepy, but I felt his therakinesis like a warm blanket as he searched for broken bones and internal injuries. Therakinesis being the ability to see under the skin to bones, muscle, and internal organs, usually comes with healing fire. Well, yeah. Possibly accidental assholery, like, misread a bit of, advice about how to run the game as a procedural step that had to happen. Yeah, because, like, doing a once per day humanity check, kind of taking into account all of the things that happen over the course of the day, that's very akin to the way some Powered by the Apocalypse games, or various indie RPGs do experience points. Like, you get to the end of the session, and you're like, okay, we've got this series of things to check in on. Did I do this? Like, did I defeat a monster today? Did I risk myself to defend one of my friends today? And for each of those, you get an experience point or something. I think at least some of the World of Darkness style systems had that kind of thing as well. Okay. I opened my right eye so that I could watch them. Uncle Larrock shook his head in feigned exasperation, and his eyes darkened with wisdom. I knew that look all too well. I was in for a lecture, but I didn't need another verbal lashing. Not after the one I had gotten last week. Uncle Larrock straightened his gray button-down shirt and rolled up his sleeves. Kalista, you have 5 broken ribs, a severely fractured leg, a mended collarbone, and a perfectly healed nose, along with a clean break in your wrist that healed almost a week ago. Would you like to change your story? I shook my head and he pressed on. You can't expect your twin to lie for you all the time. Did any of the girls see you? Uncle Larrock sat next to Justin, and I tried not to roll my eyes. Was he being thick, or was this just not my day? After being physically beaten by a gang of bloodthirsty demons, now he's going to be verbally beaten by my uncle and stepfather. This day could not get any worse. I wasn't at fault. I was simply following Makabe's instructions. It was a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. My head throbbed and spun as I tried to focus my good eye on them. My anger threatened to rise like an ocean of fire in my chest, but I pushed it down. My eye tried to close again, but I forced it open. If I was going to defend myself, I needed to stay calm and fight through the sleep that wanted to pull me under. No, they didn't see me. What kind of a spy would I be if they saw me? I sank further into the couch and heaved a sigh as they exchanged worried looks. I was instructed to follow and keep to the shadows, I clarified, voice low and thick with sleep. I rested my spinning head on the top of the cushion behind me and took a deep breath. The pain in my head doubled, but I couldn't summon enough strength to lift it again. Uncle Larrock's left eyebrow rose, and Justin's eyebrows knit before they looked at each other. I let my eye close and cursed my bad luck. And the truth falls on deaf ears. I muttered under my breath and tried to focus. If I could project to Makami, she could set them straight and heal me at the same time. The house was only 2 miles down the road, but with the pain distracting me, I didn't know if I could project at all. You found her in the Blood Demon sector. I'm surprised she survived a beating from them. Uncle Larrock quipped, now focused on Justin. Had he said something and I not heard it? That was ominous. One of those blows to my head must have caused permanent damage. I focused on raising my head and listened carefully. Not exactly. I found her in a back alley just outside of the sector. I don't know who beat her up, but it looks like their handiwork. He noted, crossing his arms over his chest and staring over Uncle Larrock's shoulder, as if seeing the scene again. When I found her, she couldn't talk or move, and she was barely breathing. She looked dead. I have to hand it to Ash. He must heal fast. Justin joked. My ears perked up. No one talked about my father, and hearing Justin refer to him warmly sent up a dozen red flags. Okay, so the main character is the daughter of Lucifer. Got it. Did question how if there's humanity checks every night, how are ancient vampires even possible? They should drop to 0 humanity within a year. Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I would yeah. Petition the GM to change that rule. Are you the only player in the game? Is it like a one-on-one thing? Or you have some other vampires in the coven, coterie, whatever they call it? Three players, okay. technically works if you take paths into account, but like, how would the vampire manage to stay stable long enough to learn the paths at a 1 humanity check per night rate? Or are old enough vampires, or like strong enough blooded vampires, just created with paths in their head? She is still here, I dryly commented, and they turned to me with a start. A sad smile crossed Uncle Larrock's lips before he shook his head again. I let the ice numb my face as I waited for one of them to move or speak again, and loathed the pounding in my skull. It was so loud, and I wished it would hurry up and heal. My head always took the longest to mend. Any other minor injury healed in minutes. Broken bones took days or hours, depending on how bad the break was, but my head took a week at least to be back in perfect working order. I watched them, trying to decide if I should jump up and hobble to the house to get her myself, or yell at them for standing around debating when I obviously needed healing. It would be interesting to see if I could make it home before they noticed I was gone. And Dark Ages paths were the default. Okay. Humanity is technically the path of humanity from their perspective. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the Dark Ages stuff very well. Weren't we just talking about Vampire Dark Ages recently? How it was going to fit into some... they were going to add it to some other setting? Or game? It was more of a medieval fantasy thing? I've slept since then. A small voice in the back of my head warned me not to move, but I wasn't so sure. I wasn't in trouble, so I didn't need to run, but I always seemed to be punished when I wasn't in trouble. Irony was not my friend.
Well, with she being here and small voices in the back of her head, we seem to have a plural protagonist.
We're all plural, after all. Oh, right! D&D adaptation. That's the one I was thinking of. Thank you, Rain. They stood, and I eyed them warily. I wasn't ready to defend myself or fight anyone. I needed rest, not scrutinizing glares.
Kalista, you zoned out again. I can see some bruising on your cranium, but I don't see a fracture from this angle.
Uncle Larrock informed me as he stepped to the couch.
I need you to lift your head again.
I obeyed, and he set one hand to my forehead, supporting my head as I leaned my whole body forward.
Did one of them kick you? Or were you tackled by a bull demon?
Uncle Larrock joked as a smirk pulled the corner of his lips up. I didn't laugh. It was too close to the truth. Bull demons were huge, beast-like monstrosities made wholly of muscles. Their biceps were bigger than my waist, their legs were twice that size, and the runts were 10 feet tall. I rested against his hand, and pain coursed through my body like it was the only thing pumping my blood. Both. I cringed, and he set his free hand on the back of my neck. I didn't see everyone that attacked me, but a bull demon charged me. It cornered me in the alley where Justin found me. Its friends joined it before the real beating began. I croaked. I shuddered, remembering the crunching in my bones. That shudder caused pain to rack my body. I cried out, and they sprang into action. While I writhed on the couch, Justin jumped to my side and helped Uncle Larrock hold me still.
You need to lie down. We don't want you hurting yourself more.
Uncle Larrock offered in his doctor voice. It was usually all cold and professional, but this time it was tainted with concern, and it told me what he wasn't saying. I was very lucky to be alive. They helped me turn, and Justin picked my legs up and set them on the couch. When I started to set my head down, Uncle Larrock stopped me with his hand to my neck. Yep, they could still be quadrupeds, with big legs. Just very big, tall quadrupeds. Bull demon, kaiju, centaur, arm-sprouting monstrosities, yes. Basically a Caves of Cud character.
Callie, you're bleeding.
His surprised whisper didn't startle me. It was a gross understatement. I had multiple wounds that were still bleeding, along with more bruises than I could count, and my broken bones throbbed. Of course I was bleeding. Makami would throw a fit when she saw me. No shit, Sherlock. I thought my head was spinning because the world found a merry-go-round. I sassed without thinking. I didn't enjoy being fragile, and being wounded made me cranky. Both were at the top of my use sarcasm if list. The other things on that list were being attacked, someone dying, being forcibly admitted to an asylum.
This isn't the time to be a smartass, Kalista.
Justin reprimanded me, barely keeping his voice down. I stared up into his brown eyes and blinked for a few minutes. Justin didn't swear unless something was horribly wrong and he couldn't fix it. Judging by the ashen hue of his face, the situation had just gone to Valkara in a handbasket. Worry lines creased his forehead, a frown thinned his lips, and the tick in his jaw flared to life. Valkara must be some sort of hell thing. Let's see. Yep, just hell. It's just hell in the demo key terminology. I'm guessing that demo key is just like demon language? Demo key? DEMO being demon something? Key, I don't know, just being like, as in like it's Demokian language or something like that. Like Enochian or yeah. It's pretty funny to see that just directly replacing the term hell in a handbasket. It's not exactly as punchy a word, right? Valkara, 3 syllables versus hell, 1.
Justin, either calm down or get out.
Uncle Larrock shot at him while grabbing a towel from his medkit.
She didn't mean anything by it. Sarcasm is as natural as breathing to her. It means her brain is still functioning properly.
Justin's anger turned to concern as Uncle Larrock turned my head toward the wall. Okay, this must be Justin.
She gets that from her. Run home and send Anna, quickly.
He ordered, unable to finish the thought. Oh, wait. Oh, no, wait. No, this is Uncle. This is Larrock. Okay. Got confused.
She gets that from her. Run home and send Anna, quickly.
He ordered, unable to finish the thought. Justin didn't think to argue. He ran out without so much as a reply. Uncle Larrock turned my head back to his and switched hands. I kept my eyes on his as fear gripped me. And, single syllables for when you're, like, swearing, or something crude or, harsh. Fewer syllables, the better. There's a whole, like, TED Talk kind of thing about the names of the gods in, or the 12, sort of, do they call them gods? I forget what the term, the in-universe term is for them. In the Final Fantasy XIV setting, what's the guy's name? For some reason, my mind keeps going to Toby Fox, but it's not Toby Fox. It's a different guy. Toby Fox is not involved in Final Fantasy XIV. But anyway, the guy who does a lot of localization, like supervises localization, was involved in like world building stuff. He was very particular that these deity names needed to be swearable. They needed to be something that you could kind of spit when you were angry or frustrated or that kind of thing. So, Thal's balls. This thing, right? Yeah. Few syllables for swearing. Don't tell the French that. They'll curse up entire novels. Alright, well. Different styles, I suppose. You can get elaborate with, like, insults. But, like, when you stub your toe or something, you want to just say, fuck! Not like, Valcara! Escatroicus! Yeah. Learned cursing like a French person for a cyberpunk character. Huh. Okay. Kalista, Escatroicus, you need to stay awake and calm. He soothed my nerves. I gingerly nodded as I tried to remain calm. Escatroicus. Oh, okay, so that's not a swear word. That's sweetheart. Oh, okay. Hell comes from the Norse hell. The original world was Shale of So, or Gehenna. Yeah, Shale is, that's the term in Judaism for the kind of unknowable underworld of death, right? Gehenna was a trash pit. And in one of the, like, sayings of the Christ, one of the stories from the Gospels, Jesus talked about, unrepentant people, sinners, something, being thrown into Gehenna. And it's meant to be like you're like thrown out like garbage. You're pitched. You're thrown into the junk heap. But then people sort of ran with it as like, oh, that's a name for hell. So now Gehenna was a new name for hell. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Runicorn. Gehenna is just like this landfill, basically, from outside of Jerusalem, I guess? I don't know. Valley of Hinnom, I don't know that one. Was the injury that bad? Did Uncle Lark just call me sweetheart in Demoki? I didn't know that he remembered the angelic language, let alone spoke it casually. He just said that I didn't have a cranial fracture. Or did I dream that? He slowly let me lay back, and I watched his face, but his aura was so filled with white fear that it blurred his features. Also, Hades and Tartarus being used because some people didn't have alternatives. Yeah, speaking of places you could walk to, Moth and I saw the Odyssey movie last weekend. It's a fun one. I do appreciate their casting choices. I'm sure that made a lot of chuds mad. Some like the choices for like Helen and Clytemnestra being very dark-skinned. Yeah, okay, Gehenna is an actual IRL location in Jerusalem, right, yeah. Okay. Where was that? I had another thought. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah, okay, so Demoki is an angelic language, apparently. Escatroicus. Interesting word for a term of endearment. Okay, Valley of Hinnom is the same thing as Gehenna. Okay, gotcha. Gehenna also then becoming the hell levels in the traditional roguelike NetHack. Haven't watched the movie yet, seen the crying about the cast. Oh, right, I was in the middle of talking. Yeah, so why that came to mind. In the Odyssey, the original epic and the movie, Odysseus visits Hades to speak to shades of the dead, and it is just like a sort of shoal, like this kind of ashen or like soot covered, like black sand shore. They pull into it, and then with a ritual they call up the shades of the dead to speak to them. But yeah, it's like not like an extra planar thing. They just kind of sail up to it. It takes some particular instructions in order to get there safely, but there's no like fiery gates or anything like that. It's just kind of you sail through some fog and you're there. They removed the yeah, I did notice that the nobody interaction with Polyphemus, the Cyclops. They skipped over that. The way that it was directed, I understood why. Like, it wouldn't really fit very well into the scene. The gods living on Olympus also referring to the actual mountain you could just climb. Yeah. Hades is always meant to be a physical place you could technically go to, albeit underground. Yeah. Yeah, the way that they directed that scene, like, there was just no place to fit the nobody dialogue. Or no man. Because they only had the one Cyclops, they didn't include like a whole community of them the way that they show up in the original story. So the nobody thing wouldn't make sense. And again, I think it made sense for the way that the scene was done to just have it be the one Cyclops. That was quite enough. Okay. Kalista, Ilyana, talk to me while we wait. I need to know you're still conscious. His voice was steady, but his fear confirmed my suspicions. I had lived through yet another near-death experience. What do you want me to say? Not 5 minutes ago you said that I didn't have a fractured skull. I assumed I was fine, and the dizziness was due to blood loss. I rushed into panic. My hands shook, my heartbeat thrummed in my ears, and my words came out too fast for even me to understand them. Or maybe that was because my ears were ringing. I despised the physical cues that reminded me just how injured I was. My entire body tensed at the thought, and I refused to relax as black spots speckled my vision. Try to stay calm, Kalista. Breathe deeply, in through your nose, out through your mouth. He instructed, and I shifted, then winced. But don't move more than that. Anna's coming. She'll heal you, and then we can all go home. Just stay still for a few minutes. He continued. His voice shook, but his words were precise and far too careful. It was easy for him to bark orders, but calm was impossible. Yeah, concussion seems likely. There's an awful lot of just going over, God, I'm badly injured. I hate it. I'm badly injured. I hate it. I hate being badly injured. God, this sucks. I'm badly injured. I can't believe how badly injured I am. Am I really that badly injured? Okay, can we move along? I didn't even make it this far when I was reading on my own. I think I crashed out when I got to Justin Tragedy. But that just shows that the stream procedure is good for getting progress in some reading. If I was too calm, I was likely to fall asleep. If I fell asleep, I might not wake up in the land of the living. If I was too tense, I'd pass out, which led to not waking up again. Wasn't there supposed to be a happy medium? Yeah. First person scenes of head injury. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, maybe it's a sort of realism. She's not really oriented to place and time correctly here. I'd calm down if I knew why you're so worried. I glanced at his face without turning my head, and his eyes were on the back of my head. I rested my torso against the couch and whimpered at the pain it caused. Everything hurt. Please tell me what's wrong. You've been a doctor for longer than I've been alive. Haven't you seen it all? I wanted to know just how bad they'd kicked my skull in. Good part to include a random flashback, yeah. Information was power, and I needed some. I needed to concentrate on something to keep the black spots away. I glanced at him again, but more black spots appeared. I stared at the ceiling and focused on a particularly strange-looking black spot. I could almost make out a face, but when I blinked, it was gone. Uncle Larrick shifted, and I refused to look at him again. I was wrong earlier. It isn't cranial bruising. Your skull is fractured and you're bleeding out. I'm holding a rag to the back of your head. Can't you feel it? He asked without taking a breath. My eyes widened and adrenaline dumped into my system, banishing the black spots. I thought I was resting against the couch. Those idiots had cracked my head open. No wonder they left in such a hurry. Valhalla and Vale. I couldn't feel a cursed thing and my pain was dissipating. If I lost that much blood, I might be out cold when Makami arrived. That was a problem. I clenched my hands around one of the pillows as an army of black spots ate the edges of my vision, and tears burned my eyes. No, I would not pass out. So, okay, we got footnotes on Valhalla here. Demo key, heaven, literally in the Maker's presence, okay. Okay, Vale, or Vale, maybe? Vale is Earth, the present time. Okay, so heaven and Earth is what she said there. I can't feel anything. Uncle Rock, I'm seeing spots. I confessed, voice shaking as shock set in, and the tips of my fingers tingled. My mind refused to function, and I couldn't think of anything more to say. He set his free hand on my shoulder, and I slowly shifted my eyes to see his face. His amber eyes were wide with fear that mirrored my own, and he pushed some stray strands of his shoulder-length ginger red hair behind his ear. How about you finish laying down? Roll onto your side, he instructed, and I fought to stay conscious. Where is Anna? She should have been here by now. His thoughts echoed through my mind. His instincts urged him to run into the hall and see how far away they were, but his fear forced him to stay and help me remain conscious. I ran his words over in my head before I understood them. Of course I needed to lay on my side. I didn't want to get blood all over the couch. On second thought, it probably was a moot point since I set the back of my head on it earlier. The whole, shoulder-length ginger red hair. Why is it that's such a funny tick in writing that I run across a lot in these styles of stories. It's like my writing instincts think that's not the time to jam modifiers in there. The sentence would be fine with just he pushed stray strands of hair behind his ear. Yeah, I don't know. Can't help the writer brain engaging. The POV character who has a head injury excuses a lot. Well, we'll see. Once she gets her head injury fixed up, we'll see if that continues or not. I laid down on my side and faced the back of the couch so that he could see the wound. I grabbed onto the cushion and I cringed as he gasped. Keep talking to me, he instructed. I bit my lip to keep from screaming at him. I took a deep breath, then another before I could think clearly. You didn't answer my first question. What do you want me to talk about? Can't think, let alone carry on a logical conversation. I debated and tried to keep my eyes open. When Justin found me, I was minutes away from a coma, and apparently that hadn't changed. I don't care what you talk about. Just keep talking. He clarified in a serious, concerned, and yet slightly frustrated tone. That was the wrong answer. There were so many things I could say that he wouldn't want to hear, and they were the only things that came to mind. My brain-to-mouth filter disengaged, and my carefully placed barriers dropped. Fine, let's talk. I took another deep breath and let years of frustration boil over. Everyone seems to think that I get into trouble for the fun of it. They think I'm some no-good toccata that will never amount to anything. I stated my innermost thoughts as tears sprang from my eyes. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke me, but I refused to stop. I do appreciate the thick enough to choke me is not the usual turn of phrase for tense air, so props for not hitting the cliche there. Could be the mistake of over-describing what things and people look like, adding the idea, if I don't describe them the first time they're met, readers might create a wrong image. No, that's the thing, they did describe the character when he first came into view. So it's more reinforcing. Remember, he's got shoulder-length ginger hair. Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't see why everyone hates me. It can't just be because I'm Pekana's daughter. I paused only to breathe, and he didn't stop me. He is a good man. He's never cross with me, and I never saw him mistreat anyone. Sure, it can be brutal, but the punishment fits the crime. The council does the same thing on a regular basis. I switched topics. A warm presence entered the room, but I was too emotionally invested in the conversation to keep my mouth shut. So toccata means devil's spawn. And our Pekana, that's daddy. a affectionate term for her father. If anything, in my writing, I have a habit of being a little too terse, a little too light on physical description of things, particularly visuals of people like that, because I'm like, I'll give a few words and, kind of no matter what I put down, like, readers' images of characters are going to go where they will. There's going to be, they'll see some random illustration before reading the book, and that's going to be the way the character looks to them. I don't have very much control over that, so I don't want to spend too much time on physical description that's just going to fall out of people's heads. But no, I really ought to probably overcome that impulse a little bit more. My scenes tend to be very heavy on the dialogue and less with, like, painting a visual image of characters and places. Over-described a lot in your teens. Modern style is more describe it as important. If the hair color doesn't matter, don't describe it. Yeah, that's fair. And another thing, this whole arrangement where we all live in one place and have everything provided for us is shit. It breeds contempt and fighting because everyone wants bigger and better than what their neighbors have, even though they can't get it. I continued my rant, hoping that the other person in the room would speak, but no one spoke. My anger burned, which kept me awake as I dug my nails into the cushion. What's with the silent treatment? You wanted me to talk. Conversation is a two-way street. I quoted Macrana Stella's usual riot act. I was being ignored, and I would not let that slide, not today. I started to roll over, but a soft female hand touched my ribcage through one of the holes in my shirt and corset. I stopped and breathed a sigh of relief when Makabe's bright healing fire wrapped around me. A green hue covered everything, and my muscles relaxed in the warmth of her fire. I let it comfort me like a warm blanket. That one may be a little bit more cliched. Oh god, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Kasetsa? Kasetsa. I guess we're gonna run with that. Kasetsa. Don't move. Makami instructed. I obeyed, unsure how much longer I could keep my eyes open. Her very presence relaxed my mind and sleep beckoned. Then, without warning, I snapped back to the reason I was here. Princess. Did you ask her? I asked. I needed to know I was cleared of guilt. I didn't want to be punished for doing what she asked. I was already beaten half to death by a gang of demons and needed outside healing, though I hadn't before. I'd managed to heal the few broken bones I'd received without anyone's help. Okay, I think I get what that's saying. This is the first time that she's needed somebody else to help her heal. The verb tenses were a little strange there. Okay. I recalled what Uncle Larrock said about an already healed broken arm and kicked myself for forgetting about my fall last week. I'd broken both bones in my arm after being, accidentally, pushed out a second-story window at school. I hadn't reported it, and I wasn't aware that the break was bad. I simply healed it and moved on, like I did every other time I was bullied. Yes, he did ask me, and I set him straight. Makami reassured me because he was speechless. I'm almost done, Kasetsu. When you're healed, we're going straight home, and I'm going to have a long talk with your sister. My face paled at the thought, and I was glad that I was facing the wall. I didn't need them to panic again. Please, you can't do that. She'll hurt me worse than those demons did, I begged. I did not want to be on the receiving end of Anastasia's anger. Makami's fire receded, and I sat bolt upright. There was no pain, but my head spun and everything went black. Okay, how long have I been live? How do I even tell? Hour and 45 minutes about. I am tempted to draw down here, good friends, because, yeah, that's the end of a chapter. Chapter 2 is easily as long as that. We've been doing a lot of chit-chat, so it might not take that long, but still, I think I want to call it there for now. I am enjoying this. It is easier to get through with good company and reading it aloud. So I think I might do this again next Saturday. I will, at the same time, bring the stream live, read chapter 2 of the Kalista Chronicles. I'm interested. Like, there's a little bit of cringe here. There's some authorial choices that I would not go with. But I think reading it this way, I'm intrigued enough to keep going. So let's look forward to that for next week. Until then, my friends, live with honor, and your heart is unassailable. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.